Take two.
Welcome to the BOF 28, the JAVAWUG Users Group 28 meetup. Matt Dudbridge is going to introduce the Wicket framework.
Well, thanks everybody, thanks for coming along. So, I'm just basically going to run through what we'll be talking about tonight. First up is Jamal. I've said that right this time, very good. Yeah. He's going to give us a basic intro to Wicket, which is going to be a sort of 10-minute intro. Next, I'm going to step up and give you a whirlwind tour of Zoom, which is a web app that's entirely developed in Wicket. Then Al's going to take over, and he's going to take us through the Wicket Quick Start application and some advanced features of Wicket. You can ask questions throughout, although we're planning to have a question and answer session at the end as well. So. The only other thing I wanted to say was there's a monthly Wicket user group, and the next meetup is on the 4th of September.
3rd.
Is it 3rd? Yeah. My phone must be wrong. Okay, if you can make it onto that, it's at the Zoom offices in Algate. Just give us a shout at the end of the talk and let you know more details. I will hand over to Jamal.
Okay, hello everybody. I'm going to be quite brief because Al's kindly offered to do most of the introductory stuff, but I'm going to tell you a bit about how I got into Wicket and why I think it's a very nice piece of software to use. And then I'll show you a little bit of what I've done with it in my short experience with Wicket, and then we'll pass it over to Al. So, my goal when I started looking at web frameworks was to find something which I can complete the application stack. I know what I'd use if I was going to build some server-side software, typically, to meet most of the requirements people like dealing with me. And I know what I'd use in the middleware as well. Typically, I'd be using something like Hibernate and Spring, possibly JBoss, something like that. But when it comes to the web framework, I didn't want to be in a situation where if somebody asks me to build them a system, I have to spend 6 months, first of all, trying to decide what web framework to use. And I've played around a little bit with some of the other technologies out there, but I didn't ever really enjoy it very much. So I'm not a web developer by any means, but it's something that since I found Wicket, I found to be a bit more interesting, a bit more rewarding. And that's one of the key things about Wicket. It allows you, or in fact encourages you, to develop stuff in an object-oriented way, first of all. And I like object-oriented ways. So that was a big plus for me from the beginning. I was also able to get started with some very simple stuff very quickly. I started probably about 2 months ago now, just playing with it evenings and some weekends when I had a chance. And at the time I started with 1.26, which is the current stable version, I guess you would say. Although most people have moved on to 1.3 now, which is in beta 2 mode. And I was really quite impressed with how quickly I could do things. And then I went on the forums and it was extremely useful. Everyone was very helpful. People were answering questions within minutes sometimes, okay, sometimes a few hours. And the sort of answers you get were very high quality answers from very knowledgeable people. So I found that to be also a big plus for Wicket. And then I had a couple of things in mind to, as a sort of baby application to play with, just to get used to it a little bit. And one of these things was at one of our clients, we've got a market risk system, which is fairly big and complex with lots of components, decoupled components talking to each other with technologies like JMS, with ActiveMQ and Mule, things like that. And one of the things that typically when you're building this sort of big system, you might come back to later, not sort of have in the first plan as a deliverable, is the supporting tools. So I thought this was a good opportunity to build some sort of UI in Wicket where we could monitor the development of not the development of the process, if you like, the business process and how message flows are happening. So I used Wicket for that and I found this quite good. And then I thought I'd take the JAVAWUG sites and apply Wicket to that and see how far I could get with it. And given that I knew very little to start with, I was quite impressed with how far I could get with help, of course, from the forum and server-side people. So what I'm going to do is show you, for example, a couple of pages. And here, for example, is a contact page where I can quickly enter any old information just so it gets past the validation. Let's do that. Cool. It's like a my limbo connection. Let's go back to that page to the cache. Okay. Cool, here we go. Okay, first of all, I've got some text fields there where I'm entering some information, and I've applied some validators to those. And one of them is an email field, so it checks if the email field is a valid field. And I've got something which is called a feedback panel, where the message comes back and tells me that my email address is no good. So if I fix that, I should be able to get to the next stage. Okay, now this is a preview, and a lot of people are using captions these days, but I've created a little arithmetic widget there, so people can add up the two numbers and submit the message, and if they get it right, they'll go through. Now, what I was going to show you here, but I'll probably be a bit brief, is that this whole section down here, with the left-hand side, right-hand side, the operator and the result, and the button is all built in one reusable component. So once I've built that, I can use that on other sites and other pages, which I've done. So this is not using any Ajax or anything, this is just using normal submittals. And on the booking page, we've got something which is a bit more Ajaxy. So here we see courses that are available. If you click on one of the courses, it'll interrogate the data store and find out that that course is available on this particular date. And that didn't refresh the whole page, that was just an Ajax call. Once I've chosen the actual course, it will tell me how many free spaces there are still on that course. You can choose the number of places you want to book, and when you click Add to Cart, again, without refreshing the page, it just refreshed the bits but I've told it to refresh, so it brings up the card. And then I integrated that with Google Checkout. Now, I don't know how much time I've already used. Shall I show you how I did some of that, or should we just move on to...
Go ahead, go ahead.
Shall I show you a little bit of how that happens? Okay.
Is Google Checkout a web service?
Yes.
Okay.
And they've got very well documented APIs, so it makes it quite easy to connect up. In fact, I haven't connected up at the second level. They can actually link back to your system, and you can do workflow with it, so you can check when the payment is being accepted, etc. But currently, I just send the parts effectively. So let's have a look, for example, at okay, first of all, I mentioned to you that I built a reusable component that I can use and other people can use possibly to check that there's really a human being there. So I have to do a bit of arithmetic to see if they can get through. Okay. So let's look at the HTML first. Pretty basic HTML. There's one tag in there, which is a Wicket tag, which tells me that this is a panel. And inside there, I've got a span which has got a Wicket ID. Now that's how we connect back to the Java objects on the server side. And we've got a left value, a right value, and the user answer. And that's it. So if we look at the Java code and how that maps back to this HTML. Have any of you used Wicket at all, by the way? Or?
No.
You've done it already? Already? No. And here's the Java code that backs that. And this is actually quite verbose because I wrote this in 1.26 initially. In 1.3 there are some clever ways of accessing the fields of a V rather than having to make properties. So here in the matching Java class, I've got a left value, right value, and the correct answer, which is calculated to check against the user answer. In the constructor, we work out some random numbers that we can check, and then we add labels, and we add validators to those labels. And that's pretty much what you need. I'm not going to go into any more detail about how it's wired up, because I'm going to be stepping on house feet with them probably. Now, once I've made this component, I'll just show you how I connect it into the booking page. First, we'll look at the HTML again. Right.
Are you using a special version of Eclipse with a plugin?
This is the version 3.3 of Eclipse, but I downloaded it from the WTP site. So WTP is like a web toolkit for development that gives you a bit of CSS and HTML support as well. But you don't really need very much with Wicket because the HTML tends to be quite simple. You haven't got any alien stuff in there really. It's quite pure. So let's see where the arithmetic ATPF is going. Hold on, I'm looking back over to the contact page. Okay, so probably that's just looking a little bit different, obviously, because the CSS isn't being applied to it at this point. And then this is all I have to do to include the panel that I just made with the arithmetic checking inside the HTML. Of course, there's a few other details there, but I'm not going to cover that in this short time. And then if I go to the contact body HTML. Okay. Basically, I instantiate an arithmetic test panel, which is the name of that class that I created earlier, and then what I have to do is add it to my form. And then that way I basically compose my page of various things plus this panel and all the validation that is defined on there. So I get all the logic in this case as well. You may not choose to do it in that way when you're centralizing your logic. You might want to put that on this particular page.
Panel has a HTML components, the components. There's an HTML element and a class.
Yes. So if you have a page, you have an HTML with the same name as well, an HTML file as well. And typically you keep those in the same folder, but there are ways of changing that default behavior. You really don't like it.
The enclosing HTML tag in HTML, that's stripped off.
Yeah, the point of the Wicket panel tags is that everything outside of that goes away. So if you want to, if you're preview for, obviously you can get designers to do a web page template for you, and you can put links to CSS and things in there, so when you actually look at the web browser, just as an HTML file, it still works.
And that was another key factor in my decision, really, because I don't really want to be doing all the CSS stuff, because I'm not very good at it, obviously, and I would like to be able to give that to someone else, the HTML and CSS, so they can make it look beautiful, and then I can make the server-side work and the backing for the front page. Okay, and I've probably taken more time than I needed to. If you've got any quick questions, so I can pass on to Al. Or at the end we're going to have a Q&A anyway, so we can probably cover a broad range of questions then.
Great, thanks, Mark. I'm going to do a quick introduction, which will probably make some of that make a bit more sense, just in basics. So, yeah, wake up from that. So hello folks, my name is Sam Moore. I've been a Wicket core committer for about nearly a year now, since about last October. And I sort of got into things because I was looking for web frameworks about 2 years ago, which would be slightly less painful than Spring MVC and various other sort of control-based things, which are good for doing what they do. But if you want to build really complicated sort of Ajax user interfaces in them, managing all the state on the server gets really, really hard. So I was looking around stuff, and I looked at lots of different things, like JSF, which was a bit fledgling back then, but it's about 2 years ago now, I started looking at things. But yeah, it's kind of acceptable, but so much configuration, it just seemed like a real pain to get real work done on it. And I came across Wicket randomly, so I played with that, and it seemed to fit all my goals. So I'm going to have a quick chat to you about what exactly it does. Okay, so what do we like about Wicket? Well, I like that it gets out of my way. It's really powerful. It gives you a whole load of simple abstractions that you can build really complicated web apps out of. It doesn't fail. This sort of level of abstraction doesn't fail in the way that most tools do. So when you take most simple tools and you try to build really complicated things with them, all the bits and pieces start to leak and you start to worry about all the little corner cases and everything else. And in Wicket, I found it's really easy to sort of manage all that complexity and all these abstractions don't really leak very much at all. Just try this way slightly. Okay, so it also doesn't really have anything else apart from just Java and HTML. And that's a really big win, because it means that it doesn't matter what development environment you like, we don't have to write you a plugin so that you can write a web app for IDEA or Eclipse or whatever. It's just Java and HTML. You know how those work, so you can use Wicket. And the Ajax support is absolutely rocking. It's great. It makes it really easy to do things which are really, really hard in most other frameworks, because you kind of maintain the state between the server and the client and kind of keep it in sync with each other. You can choose not to go down that road if you like, but we don't enforce things, but by default we'll let you keep some component tree you have on the server in sync with the client. And you can, that gives you a lot of power, so it means that if you want to, rather than doing little Ajax updates on the page, you can do an entire round trip to the server, regenerate the whole page, and all of a sudden your web app works exactly the same, whether you're using Ajax or not. So you can support an Ajax web app without any JavaScript, it's just that you do a page reload every time. And there's no other framework I've come across which will let you do that. So I like that about it. So how does it work? Well,
so that's what's under contract. You get switched from Ajax.
Yeah, it just works both ways for most things. Okay, so how does it work? Well, yeah, we sort of established that it's kind of component-based. So rather than having a view and a controller, your controller basically stays in the view and pull the state out of the session on your request object and how that works. Instead, we just write everything in Java objects, and we let Wicket handle all the magic for us behind that. I'll explain that in a minute. So they exist in this tree. So it's basically like you can imagine an HTML document as a tree of tags, and in Wicket it's the same kind of thing. You have this tree of components, and they bind to HTML tags. But you don't need to have a component for every single tag on your page. You have a component just got a whole load of markup attached to it, which sticks to it a lot better. You can also attach these things called behaviors to components. So say for example, you have a component, and it's great, it gives you a little widget, which does something useful. But you want to change the class with this div for the outputs. If you want to, you can attach a behavior to it that changes the attributes on the divs for outputs. So I'm not going to talk about that today, but it's very nice, powerful, reusable. It makes things more powerful and reusable because you can take somebody else's component that doesn't do quite what you want, you can extend it and change it to do exactly what you want without having to copy and paste all that code. And if you ever try to extend someone's tag lists, for example, if you go down the JSP code and use tag lists, you basically can't extend tag lists. You have to start again. And we don't do any of that. Great. So, what about how does it manage all this state for us? Well, when we create a page instance, Wicket puts into this thing called page map. You don't need to worry about that, it's just a container of pages. And that gets persisted between the requests. So, when a request comes in to that page, for someone clicking the link, for example, Wicket will dig that page out of its session or wherever it's stored this page. So it can actually take the actual instance of this page object you've created and do stuff with it. So for example, if your page has a link object in it, it can invoke a function on that. So as a consequence, you can take in your link object, which has an on-click handle or something, we'll look at that in a minute. That just exists within your page. Your page can have space in it, it's just Java objects, as long as they're serializable. And so you can just use basic Java. So I'll show you how that works. So for the link, this is just a really basic web page with a link in it. We have this Wicket ID magic attributes on these tags, and that lets you, as Jamal was saying, that lets you put bits of your HTML tag model into your Wicket component. So we're going to add a Wicket component for links in here and maybe do something useful. Now, you may be looking at this and all thoughts going through your head of, well, I don't want to have to create a web page markup for every page I'm doing, or most of it. Wicket, of course, provides good templating and inheritance for markup and other cool features, but again, I'm not going to talk about this today. So let's just have a quick look at how this works. Well, the Java looks a bit like this. We have this page, extend web page, and we add a new link object to it. And that's an abstract class which requires you to implement the onClick method, so we've done that. And this is just going to spit out a line of debug logging to say that we can click. So you can see what I was talking about earlier in terms of page state and actual instances, that we generate this page, we render it to the client with a link on it, and Wicket will generate a unique URL for that link. And when you click on it, we'll go and invoke this method. And you can have whatever state you like inside your page class, so you can put objects in it, use them in your click handle. So this gives you something really powerful because you don't need to worry about where all your state is kept between requests. So let's say, for example, you're building a tree of something or other. You can just create some Java node classes to store your tree and stick that on the page. As long as it implements serializable so it can actually exist somewhere, it all just gets handled for you. You don't need to worry about it. Okay, so that may cause problems because our page may get quite big. We may not want to store it in sessions, that may get quite big. So how do we handle that? Well, Wicket has these things called models that you can bind to components, and that lets you divorce the actual data that you were wanting to store on your page from this persistence that happens for you.
So, can I ask you something about the persistence of pages? I mean, we're the page, so you've basically got this component tree. Okay. And we have a separate kind of instance of that component tree per session that's
Yeah, that's
basically active at a particular point in time. So use a session.
Yeah, very much so. Yeah. And that brings about a lot of other things as well. So that means that Wicket is kind of by default it's secure because it's generating these URLs just for that session that the user has. Which means that if somebody else comes along, they don't belong to that session, so they can't be attacking things on your website. So you can generate these one-time, or the Wicket can generate these one-time URLs for you. And that's quite powerful too, because it means that you can pull out all of the security checking which you have to do in your controller otherwise, because you're guaranteed by Wicket that the only user who can click on this is the user that's got the session that you've got the state for. So how does the models work? Well, we have an interface called iModel, and that just has these three things. So you go and implement these. There's a guess object. So for example, if you want to put a label on your page, that's going to have a string attached to it. So it's just going to be an output span or something with some text in the middle of it. So in guess object, you return a string you want to return. In set object, you set some internal reference to that. And in detach, you probably wouldn't do much. Detach gets called when the page goes away. So why would we use detach? Well, let's say you had a big database object that you were wanting to display on the page somehow instead. We could store, instead of the actual object, we could just store the primary key in the database for it. So our model class would have a primary key field. In guess object, we could go get my DAO reference, load the object out of it. In set object, we just store the key, the primary key field again, and in detach, we can, if we wanted to cache the object within our model, so when you call guess object more than once, it will sort of transit reference to it or something, we can clear the transit reference and everything else. Anyway, okay, so that's how that works. So how do we get started with a Wicket project? Well, we give you, if you use Maven 2, how many people use Maven 2? Can you show of hands? Okay, that's most of you. So if you don't use Maven 2 is just a little tool. It's just like ANT plus nods. It's like ANT with the default configuration, if you like. All of the plugins you can run for it. And we have an archetype for Maven 2, which will set you up a Wicket project and get you going. So this is all a whole load of Maven 2 magic. Just copy and paste it. Not worry about what it means very much. You can stick your own package name in here and your project name. And then...
Can I ask you if that's actually on the Maven repository, or do you need a Maven?
Yeah, it's on the Maven repository for Beta 2. So, yeah.
A Biblia or whatever?
Yeah, so that will just work.
Okay.
Okay, so once you've done that, you then just change into the project directory that it makes for you. And if you want to set it up in Eclipse, you can run this command, and that will set you up in Eclipse project magically. If you prefer NetBeans, you can do the same thing with the NetBeans plugin that Maven 2 has, or idea or whatever. Then we just need to import it to Eclipse. So to do that, we just go File Import, and we go through the Eclipse dialogues, import the existing project in, and we pick this directory that is generated for us, and we're done. Then we just need to start it up, and to do that, Wicket will set you up a little start Jetty, so it'll run a Jetty internally, which is really cool for debugging. So you can just start it up as a Java application like you would do with any other Eclipse project, and that goes and runs, and you can pull up Firefox and go and have a look at that on your local host, and it all magically works in your Wicket app, ready to run. Cool. And once you've done that, you can start doing some work. It's that simple. It really does take 30 seconds to set it up. Compare that to, okay, Wicket T is doing a lot of work for you there, but even if you did it manually, there's so few configuration files and things, so few dependencies that you have, that actually you can get going within about 10 of doing this anyway, which compared to working out which implementation of JSF you want to use, and which way of doing Ajax you want to do with JSF, and which way of doing you've probably been there. Cool. So that's me done with introductory talk, and I'm going to hand over to Matt now. He's going to take you through a real proper application that this guy's built over the last 2 or 3 months, I guess.
Just to give you a little bit of background about my time in Zoom, I joined about coming up to 4 months ago, and at the time I joined, they was using plain old JSPs for the web tier. And when you see the side of the app we're talking about, hopefully you'll see why that was a pretty massive situation to be in. And in terms of the planned development for the app, we're going to be adding a lot of Ajax features and more importantly a lot of developers to the team. And basically JSPs, the way they were coded is on a scale, so this type of application needs to build. So what I'm going to do today is share some experiences of using Wicket for what is now a commercial website. So just a very quick run through background company. We're a Web 2.0 startup, or that's what we like to call ourselves. A few interesting stats about our company: 3 directors, 8 permanent employees.
Matt, that's 20.
today.
Oh, sorry guys. I thought you were enjoying this as much as I was. Right, I'm just starting from scratch. I was going to miss it.
We heard what you said.
Yeah. I thought that was actually part of the presentation. Actually, I'm really down.
Sorry guys.
Let's get the hand out so check now.
Just have the
There we go. Oh,
see noble.
wow. A noble.
If you can't see my slides, I'm still not doing it.
Get your Mac out so
Got it.
Okay.
Right, I'll start again. Just here. Right. That's the slide I was showing you. So we're 2 minutes later. Not very big, as you can see by the stats. We do have a ping pong table, which we're very into true web 2.0 fashion. So, a bit about Zoom. So, we're a residential property search engine. So, real estate search, basically. We're not like, I mean, you guys must have heard of finding property, prime location, big property mobile sites. Like Google, we call an index property sites. So that's what makes us, that's what makes our data fresh compared with what the other guys do, which is effectively analyze big databases. They rely on agents uploading properties, and typically properties can be off there for a couple of, can be off the market for a couple of weeks before they refresh that. We've got currently around 80k properties, 80,000 properties in London, and we're planning to expand to the rest of the UK soon. So, what are the types of features that we've got in Zoom? Well, as I said already, Zoom is entirely developed in Wicket. So, I'll show you these live down in a minute. We've got a free text search on there, so you can type in a location, and we've got a predictive text component that's provided by Wicket that helps free text search facility. We're big on tag clouds, so this lets, if you're looking for a new property, you know exactly what you're after. You can look for individual features such as furnish, Victorian features, all these types of things, so you take it right to the type of property you're looking for. We've got Google Maps integration, so on there you don't see properties, see restaurants, bars, pubs, schools, anything that's around the area. Take feeds from guys called Trusted Places, and LDC, that's a local data company, and they provide information about local restaurants, pubs, ratings and such. And we also get photos of all the outside premises, which is useful if you try to identify those places in the area. Given that we've got about a large database of properties, we need things like area price guides, so we can give you an average price for that area and across London. New features for adding all the time is the ability to save favourite searches and properties, so you can return to them, or indeed your friends and family can see them on there as well. And sorry, I was going over too much longer. Got big, nice big photos. Everyone likes to see big photos of properties when they're searching. We've got calculators for loans, mortgages and such, and we've got feedback forms so you can speak directly to agents rather than having to go through a third party. And this is all the other stuff we're working on. Facebook integration, we've got mobile sites, and we've got agent tools and search together tools, which is when you can search with your friends and family. So,
Is the mobile site done by Wicket?
it's all Wicket, yeah. The mobile site, the Facebook site, everything is all Wicket.
Must be the same travel code and just instead of HTML.
It is. Yeah, all the back end data access, everything is just shared amongst all three types of sites: Facebook, conventional, and mobile. So, sorry about that. That's the little mini sales pitch just to let you know what Zoom's about. But now this is the interesting stuff that come forward to Wicket. So, for us, whilst we're redeveloping Wicket, lots of pluses. I'm glad you'll be glad, or I was glad to find out, but hopefully you'll find beneficial as well. For us, a big perk was the fact that it's pure XHTML being hosted on the front end. We've got an outsourced design team, And having done this sort of stuff with outsourced design teams using things like JSPs, just wouldn't have worked basically. Too much inline logic. We've got a true separation of concerns where all we worry about is our backing lead, all the design team needs to worry about is the marker. Yeah, and initially they come back and they say, what are all these Wicket IDs I can see in the code, you know? Are these important? Like, don't touch those. Went through a few iterations where, you know, some of the markup would come back with mangled, but then, you know, it's a learning experience on both sides, and, you know, all the research work's been fine. The other big benefit for us is pure Java. And the middle tier we use is the hangover from, well, I say hangover, is the result of a previous startup. Sorry guys, we'll be back in a second. The middle tier is a result of a previous startup, CTA, and a couple of developers involved with thinking cap. And that's what provides, that's our database basically, that's what does all the crawling, indexing, and properties, and actually provides data back. And obviously integrating with the legacy middle tier is no more fun thing to do, but because Wicket at its heart is just pure Java, that integration is actually quite evolved. Management service last night, I mean, okay, you guys aren't new to web apps, that's a real pain in the backside sometimes, and having that managed for you is a real king feature. As I said already, we're web 2.0, we love Ajax. Ajax can get messy to write, and bottom line is Wicket has a lot of built-in Ajax features that just really make it simple to use. I said very naively here, ability to split pages into forms and panels. You can split them into templates, you've got fragments. There's actually lots of different mechanisms you can use in Wicket, and I'm not going to go into these today, but you've got real modularization of your code base, and that really helps when you've got multiple developers working on the big code base. Downsides from my perspective, I've actually amended this slide since the last time we did this talk because Al pointed out something very true. Initially I found, because I've only been using Wicket for about 3 months now, and that's about the time we've done a total rewrite of the front end to give you an idea of how quickly it's there. But there is only one book out there, and I don't know, as Charles already pointed out, there is very good support online, so you could argue that that's no big loss. But in its defence, Wicket is very easy to pick up and get working.
There's another book coming as well.
And there's another book coming, so...
You said there was a forum. Do you also have IRC?
Yeah. I'd say it's very active, so you can get real-time support pretty much wherever it's at.
As long as the 5 minutes.
What's it look like? Is it any good?
Sorry.
The book? Is it a good book or a rubbish
I
book?
don't actually own the book because when I've heard bad things about the book, well, that's a dangerous thing to say, but it hasn't had rave reviews. However, when I went on the hunt for documentation for me to use personally, I found that actually the Apache site, or now the Apache site, the original source for the site, is just listed with examples, and forums as well, just as Jamal's found as well, it's just really helpful people out there.
So one of the very strong things about Wicket is that we have a very, very comprehensive set of examples for use in this code base, which is, for most people who are working Java developers, I think probably more useful documentation. Because it's kept current, it's forced to be kept current, because we test it, and as unit tests, you can't write unit test documentation, so it has to go out of date if you document stuff. Those examples are always up to date and very comprehensive.
And the book isn't actually that bad, and I've seen bits of the coming up as well, and that's going to be better, I think it's going to be very good. It's actually 2 committers for the writing second book.
That's what it's like.
It's there for a 1.3 release.
Yes, that's the other thing, the original book out there now is 1.2.
The other downside I was just going to mention was that some things just don't feel as easy as they should be to do. Well, the example I used last time I was saying this was that, in playing on JSPs it's very easy just to assign code a variable and spit it out various places on the page. Whereas Wicket, when you first log into this type of type of behaviour as it needs to mimic. But I think, for example, quite fairly, if you've got a use case that requires that, then there's a class, there's a label component that you can extend and you can give it that behaviour.
One thing I noticed about Wicket, which seems to be like certainly one of the major differences with tapestry, the tapestry pipeline, is just from the example I've seen and maybe curriculums, it doesn't seem to have much in the way of data binding. So text needs to write more code to support interacting with the components. Because I know, for example, with tapestry, you don't actually need to even, in your Java classes, you don't actually need to even write any component-specific code or generally speaking. You can just use the data mining facilities to, if you like, to pass a state between your...
The base of the basically gets what
Basically, yeah.
Oh, you can certainly do that with it. That's very easy.
Yeah.
But you can create a single queue. These models that we have.
Yeah.
There are two special types of models. There's a property model, which lets you bind your states of being to a particular field. And so you've got a compound property model. And what that does is it picks up the field that you need to bind to from the component ID that you use. So all you need to do is label with your Wicket IDs, the names of the fields, and it works.
Right.
And I'll show you a much better way of doing that, which involves writing numbers code at all. Okay, you can see how you can write it.
Is that part of the 1.3 release now, or is that existing?
That's existing. The compound model will support this being existing as well.
Yeah.
I'm just going to give you a quick whirlwind tour of the web app then. So this is what Zoom looks like when you hit the home page. So already in here, you can just start typing any random location. I think my session is going to just refresh this. Because what I really want to show you here is the predictive text element. So there we go. And I'll come back to the code that's doing this behind the scenes in a minute. So I can choose any location there.
Is it now starting the web session since I don't have to worry?
Yeah.
Is it now starting the HTTP session?
Yeah. You'll notice we've got a nice friendly URL format at the top of the page. Again, I'll show you how that's done from the so yeah, I mean down the left-hand side, I've got the first 10 properties in Chelsea. Here you'll see a property, all the properties. So I click on any one of these buttons and it'll show you the property on the map. So there's one on Park Road. There's some quirky facts about the area. I can even filter a search by price, bedroom, bathrooms, type, whether it's house, flat, studio, and I can choose individual features. Clicking on any one of these properties then takes you through to a detail page. And that's where you get the big view, big map, and you can do some data on this page. A quick example. And there we go, there's some supermarkets in there. So down here you see this big tag cloud, which seems to presentation is a little bit screwed up there, so I have to look into that tomorrow. Now, what we're using here is basically a data repeater, and Wicket's got quite a few types of data repeaters, so basically output these tags onto the screen. So what actually looks like a very verbose section of the screen is actually sort of one line of HTML just being outputted as a component multiple times by Wicket. We've got some more Ajax style features down here, so I mean this is calculating the mortgage amount for me. But if I decide I want to spend a little bit more, I spend £450, I can update that, and that's just doing an Ajax. You can see the figures changing at the bottom, that's just doing an Ajax request. Okay, I'm not going to dwell too much on the details of something, we can go back to Stu's slides.
That URL didn't look very bookmarkable.
Yeah, and I'll show you how easy it is in just a second. So the autocomplete, the drop down we saw at the start. Can everyone read that? I don't need to make it a bit bigger. Is that alright?
Zoom it a bit.
Yeah, zoom it, magnify it a bit.
I think if you push play on the slideshow, you push Mac Shift A so it's zooming for you.
Which one's that?
Mac Shift 8. Sorry.
Try Windows with it.
No, we can do. Okay, I'll do it from here. So here you can see we're using this Wicket component also complete text field. And I'm giving it an ID, name, search criteria. And being an abstract class, I've basically got to implement this get choices method. So past that is input string, which is as the user types. And we've got a, I think it polls, what's the poll frequency on that? It's set. It basically what Wicket will do is it will throttle the polling frequency of the AJAX request on the back, so it won't inundate your web server with requests. But basically you can see what it's doing on every iteration. Is it's checking, okay, is this empty of what, don't do anything. Otherwise, if its length is greater than or equal to the autocomplete length, minimum length, which is I've set to 3 characters, so that's why I had to type CHE before it provided me with options. Then this is where it's doing a request to I'm able to see if you can cat for options, and then it's basically going to go through and match all those and provide them back to the user. And that's basically all I've written there to get that behaviour working. Java code to basically go and say, right, this is the minimum number of characters that the user needs to type, and this is where you get the suggestions from. Here's a bit of logic to match onto the suggestions, and then I'll just return them as a list. Nice and simple. So it's fine.
So is that just a component that you add to the page?
Sorry.
Is that code that you showed just a moment ago, is it just a component just being added to the page itself?
Yeah, so that's what you'll see. So from just going from Al's example, so it's a very simple example of just adding a link to the page.
Yeah.
So this is actually the code that this is taken from is from search for, but you can see the method that I'm calling on the form itself is just add. So add takes a component. The component I'm using is the auto drop down.
And it's on the template side, will it just be Wicket ID equals certain criteria? That's it.
Yeah. It's just a conventional text field in that respect. And then you can obviously tweak the style sheet settings to give, that's what we've got sort of when you scroll down and get the red bar in the background, that type of behaviour.
What libraries are you using for the AJAX integration? Because it's also native.
We've written our own
Right.
deliberately because nothing that was out there did quite what we wanted. And yeah, the guys would go, oh, you can use Dojo. And we go, well, yes, but Dojo is 200 kilobytes. Our implementation does what we want is about 12. So,
Sure.
we pulled various bits from prototype and bits and pieces where we wanted to stand on top of things, but we're very interested in JavaScript in the search place.
I didn't show you this, we recently removed this functionality from the site. But we did have pop-up window. Pop-up window is okay, they're a pain in some cases. But this is just a DHT pop-up window. So it's actually very sort of browser friendly if anyone has pop-up blockers enabled, then rather annoyingly for some users this will get right. But that's why we've actually taken it off, because we're not favouring pop-up windows anymore. But this is quite neat because as you can see from the picture, very small picture, sorry, I'll try and make it a bit bigger. from the screenshot that you can see, sorry guys, that was loading. Can you see the screenshot up here that pop up with the zoom from the background? It's actually erased or dimmed out the background for me and actually deactivated all the components in the background. And that will hit us for free. So you don't have to worry about using going away and trying to do things in the background and trying to change the focus of the window or whatever. That window will stay there until they get the little close, the tiny little close box together in the top right.
So is that cross-platform? So
Yeah.
So
Well,
you-
there's all different browsers.
so you can do a magic login, Ajax login or something, whatever you feel like doing.
You can embed any components you like in there. And we handle all the cross-browser issues, like the fact that when you pop divs over other divs in Explorer, combo boxes, drop-downs show up through. So you go high with all the drop-down boxes. I did it for you. And all the other things that if you're writing all this stuff from scratch, you don't have to worry about, someone else to worry about.
Doesn't work for Flash movies.
That's a browser limitation, you can't do that at all.
So what I wanted to show you here is, so here you can see, this is where actually implementing the settings on that. And out of the box, the set title, set initial height width, and this is the rest is given for free by Wicket. And then what we're using in this window as well is when the user submits the form using this button up here, we're actually doing an Ajax submit link.
Do you have also an equivalent to a div layer? Puts up a div layer in front of all the other content. Or
We don't have a component that does that, but it should be easy to write on based on the code that we have from the available window. And we have a Dojo integration project, and Dojo I think will do that for you, so you can use that very easily. It'll take about 5 minutes.
You reload so for example, if you make changes to your page or to your templates or whatever, do you need to restart the server or reload the application for
No, so when you're doing Wicket runs in one of two different modes. There's a development mode and a deployment mode. In the development mode, it pulls your template files for changes in very, very quickly. Which obviously takes some resources as well. Deployment mode. So yes, you can change your templates and you can change your code. And it works.
will that do it for classes as well?
Yeah, so by default it does it as well as the code starts with classes, so it's not having removing methods, it sometimes trips up. But we also have a reloading filter which actually uses magic class loader to make it better, and then you barely ever have to reload and restart your app.
Okay. Yeah, that's obviously just activated in development mode.
Gets the HTML from the class file, I suppose.
Yeah, it pulls, you can pull it from everything with it, you can override to behave how you like. All the settings and things, we've made it very, very, very flexible and accessible. But yeah, by default, it pulls it from the class file and expects it to be in the same place as the components that's attached to the page. Pages are just components attached to it.
I mentioned before there's quite a large code base on the site. So obviously any mechanisms to actually set up templates, just coming back. So, any templating mechanisms are very, very strongly welcome. So here we've got this is an internal thing that we set up for a standard template, which is an abstract class. But these are things that you'll see common on every page. And I mean, each one of these branches off into a form again with its own backing marker. But you can see it from a sort of self-documenting level. This is actually quite a neat mechanism because all I'm doing is I'm extending a zip page, okay, that's just a Wicket page with a few session-specific or web app-specific content. And I'm adding, and I can see each standard or each page that inherits the standard template has a login form, a sign-up form, a mini search bar, which is what mini search bar which appears at the top, and then this footer. So really, again, coming back to the strength of having pure Java, you've got self-documented code there.
So that's standard template. That will go together with an HTML file, which presumably has matching tags that match the ones you put in there.
Yeah. Each component is actually is a form that has its own matching set of markup.
And if you wanted to say override that, you could basically, for example, you could rearrange, say, the positioning of those different parts on the page without having to change the
so you could extend, say you have a component within a page or a form, whatever, just markup. You can override the markup by extending the class, just providing the extended class just called super constructor, just called super constructor, so then just gets customization up. The other powerful feature we have is that you can actually not just do object-oriented with the components, but also with the markups, so you can do inheritance with the markup as well. It's a wicked child and extend tags, you can put into your markup so that you can do the markup, which is quite cool. I haven't seen that anywhere else.
The other thing we exploit in Wicket is the use of flat URLs for SEO purposes, search engine optimization. Possibly not a good example because obviously the main thing we're interested in is making sure that anything /London, Chelsea, property price, gets picked up. But again, this is just in our top levels of application class. And this is just mapping, as you see, mapping these URLs onto these backing things, and then obviously you'll see an associated markup file for each one of those. Oops. So just two more little tricks I want to show you. So we've got toggle buttons. This you can see up in the top right. You've got this little love heart. The idea is when you click it, that saves your favourite search or favourite property. And this is an example of an Ajax link. So again, on this form, we're adding an Ajax link with favourite search. We implement this method on click, and then you can see the actions of the check. So we make sure that has this button already been clicked, has this already been favoured. If not, we make a request to our tier, thinking capital tier, and assist that. Now this little bit of code here is a target. So as part of one of the parameters you get fed in on the on-click event is the request target. So this is a little trick I'm using is pending JavaScript that actually updates the class name, which turns a love heart from a grey to a red. Now, something that Al mentioned earlier that you could use in preference for this is the attribute modifier class. So you can actually, which takes an HTML element and amends the properties of that. So I could easily amend the class name on the actual HTML label, whatever I'm using, HTML image on the page, and then re-add that to the page within a single request, and that will have the same effect.
Sorry, I didn't get that.
Yeah.
Is there a way to do that without doing JavaScript? Because it's quite a range of impersonations.
Yes, it is. I mean, I should have updated this slide because that's actually how I'm doing it now, but this is from and that was after Al suggested a better way of doing it. There is, use this attribute modifier class. So basically that's the love heart that you see before and after is actually an image class. And then I can use an attribute modifier on that image to basically say set style sheet to this and then add the components to the page again. So what I'll end up with is that JavaScript will disappear. I'll modify that CSS class entirely in Java code. And there's just a corresponding markup. So I mean, when familiar concepts. You've got a favourite search button with a Wicket ID. This is there. Just going to show you this last thing. So this is just to show you on the page, but here, when you favourites, when you